Alright everyone, it is time to talk about Diablo 2 Grave Robbed. That's a little bit unfair. A lot of the remaster is quite lovely, but it has been having significant server problems that unfortunately have persisted. It's definitely led to the Reddit being very funny, as Reddits tend to be, but overall it's a situation worth looking into. Your overall context here, of course, is that Diablo 2 is a completely awesome, iconic game. Just about everyone loves Diablo 2. Resurrected generally was a very faithful, quite lovingly crafted remaster of it. Some people perhaps wanted it to go a bit further. I appreciated it in that it seemed a little bit more like the StarCraft 1 remaster, where it was very faithful. Now that said, it has had issues, a lot of those being quite funny, in that they really are echoes from the past with Error 37. Now, obviously, Blizzard have been in need of goodwill, and one of the things we've long said here is that what Blizzard really needs is to ship quality product that people enjoy. That's the main thing that will make the rest melt away. And for many people, they've got that with this game. For a lot of people, though, especially the more hardcore fans, there are issues that are getting in the way of playability. Now, what's interesting is that Blizzard have since updated this, basically giving us their perspective on things, some explanations, and some future action. So we're going to cover what's actually happened to players, what the CS response has been, and then we'll get into Blizzard's response to the technical issues. Now, at least the developers were reasonable about the overall context with Blizzard Entertainment saying, do what you feel is right when it comes to regarding the company. But it quickly became clear that there were issues, because server issues really hampered the game's launch, and to some people it felt like a bit of a paid beta because it did not have ladder at launch, where they basically said they wanted to get the game being, all good and stable before ladder came out. Of course, most people would say that it should be good and stable before it comes out. And if you're going to use more technical definitions, often a beta is considered as being, well, basically systems and content complete, but polish and bug fixing being needed, so does it pass muster for the technical definition? So that's the context up till now. Unfortunately, the game is still not exactly where it needs to be. So let's talk about what's been happening here. It is being plagued by many of the same server issues that we talked about earlier with the launch. Unstable connections, queue times, login issues, even some disappearing of characters. The game, in fact, was taken offline for emergency maintenance for several hours this past weekend, but seemingly to no avail. Now, Eurogamer pointed out that Blizzard's North American support Twitter, basically for almost 2 days, was tweeting exclusively Diablo 2. Here's an example. As part of our continued investigation into the issues over the past few days, our team will be actively monitoring and reacting to the situation during peak play times, and there may be periods where logins or game creation are limited. Login, game creation. So that basically means playing the game, and that is absolutely not how this should be for a paid product now that we are weeks after launch, and I think especially when it's not an MMORPG, which is generally where people are a bit more forgiving of this sort of thing. Now, that said, and as we've got here, credit to the Blizzard CS Twitter. Generally, I have found them to be great at keeping people up to date on things. But yes, between EU and NA, constant strings of issues. I mean, here you go, a chain from the 11th to the 12th of October, all about, all about issues. Here we go, October 11th. Today's login and game creation issues have been resolved. Thanks for your patience. October 12th, we are currently investigating reports of login issues. Apologies for any inconvenience caused. Then later that day, our teams continue to work on immediate and long-term fixes in order to bring the game back online and ensure it remains stable. We'll post an update once there's more info to share. This is not ideal this long post-launch. Especially not great considering Blizzard's image and considering that the target audience for something like Diablo 2 Resurrected are going to be the most long-term die-hard fans of Blizzard Entertainment products. Shout out to one comment, though. Day 6 of playing $40 and being unable to play uninterrupted for more than a few minutes. That is absolutely not the customer experience that we want to be delivering. We've got, I need to apologize for the D2R servers, sorry, which is a really great one. This guy's just finding, Is the wife taking the servers down, making them do chores and housework? Maybe. Maybe it's all her fault. Maybe not. Our guy's wife's gone to Disneyland with the kids. Servers are down. So some enjoyable banter and some fun stories being created by the Reddit, but not great. Now, in fairness, I think this is one that we put here because we wanted to be real about this. Feeling bad for Vicarious Visions. As the Redditor says, they've done an amazing job remastering the game. The game itself is 10 out of 10. But it's the other bit that's falling apart. And that absolutely does suck. So that's Diablo 2. There's a little bit to talk about Diablo 4, though. But first, any thoughts?
Yes, going through the subreddit has actually been basically the highlight of my day before sitting down to record this because it's really funny. It's that thing where obviously people are angry, but they're now past the level where they're angry because it's been going on for so long and now they're actually just having fun with it. Like that guy who's, was like, sorry, every time my wife goes away, the servers go down, must be her. Obviously that's not serious, but everyone else going, oh yeah, the servers are down, now it's his wife's gone. It's this guy's fault. It's the idea of just like the daily server crash.
Yeah.
That's what it's called. It's called the daily server crash. And I actually looked, it was the October 10th, we're investigating login issues tweet was 9:42 a.m. The October 11th one was 9:42 a.m. So it's at the point where I even saw a joke in the subreddit saying they should save resources and just retweet the little tweet from yesterday. But it's like, it's fun to laugh at, but it's also really grim that how do you mess up this badly?
I have no idea.
And how is it still relatively silent in the kind of overall thing? I feel like everyone's just kind of so browbeaten at this point. There's like, I'm done. I'm just gonna meme about it or try to play what I can and then not bother. And also it's kind of, because it's limited to a certain time of the day, it's going to hit certain people worse, or it seems to be that way. Whereas just server crashes, there you go.
Yeah.
Sorry. Log out before this time if you don't want rollback to hit your characters was another post I saw.
All right, Blizzard's taken this then. So it's all been pretty interesting. We've got a long post from them, as well as Mr. Pez Radar, who is a global community lead for Diablo, where he basically says, TLDR, our outages have not been caused by a singular issue. They are solving problems as they arise. Basically doing short-term mitigation of problems and then longer-term architectural changes. A small number of people have actually lost character progression, and that will continue moving forward. Those losses will not be fixed. However, any losses because of a server crash should be limited to just a few minutes of gameplay. Hopefully those are not the few minutes where you got the big bit of loot that you were happy about. Now, they say that this is not a complete solve. They're continuing to work in the issue, and they're working on things. So let's actually get into this then. First up, we've got the topic of server problems, where, look, we've TLDR'd the big Blizzard statement to get you guys the really the core points. So, they have a global database supported by several regional ones to store all character info and progress. And then the global database does have a backup in case it fails. Now, the global outage was caused by a significant surge in traffic around October 9th, which they say was a new threshold the Blizzard servers had not experienced at all, not even at launch. Which is impressive to me and surprising. I wonder if this is a game-specific thing, or if this truly does mean that D2R has sold incredibly well, regardless of these problems. I mean, certainly, high sales would correlate to more server issues. Continuing then, this is a situation that was exacerbated by an update they released the day before. They then had to roll back that update in an attempt to improve the stability. But then, the following day saw even more traffic, which of course meant yet another outage. Servers were disconnecting from the database, and they were repeatedly trying to reconnect. So as all of those reconnects happen, well, basically the database gets flooded with traffic and never had time to catch up with the work we had completed. So basically, humongous chaos. Now, Blizzard realized that they could make improvements to database logging, which would have restored things to a healthy state, which was a bit of a win amid all the chaos, but the chaos was obviously felt by players, whereas the wins Blizzard experienced were not. Now, further optimization work followed, but there was another concurrent player high. Hundreds of thousands of players in one region alone equals more database structures. And that's a big bit of news. Hundreds of thousands in a single region. And that's going to be talking about concurrency. This game has sold really well.
I think it's kind of interesting that it's not been in the... Well, it's definitely been in the public light, but less so than you would expect. And I think that's kind of happened because a lot of the players who are interested in Diablo 2 Resurrected aren't necessarily going to be, completely in the current gaming sphere, especially because they're a little older and whatnot. So I think that's probably just this like really silent explosion of player base, especially if you're looking at like the Chinese region being officially supported and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's going to be completely insane, I think.
Yeah,
but it's just the kind of thing where we'll all be too busy focusing on Diablo 4 and other things to actually notice it.
I will be fascinated to see how this appears in their next earnings call.
Absolutely.
But to move on with the problems then. So they reached out to other Blizzard engineers to work on smaller fixes while the main team was focused on the core server stuff, and they also reached out to their third-party providers for assistance as well. So that's basically a lot of the server issues that were going on. Now, you might be wondering why. I mean, beyond some architectural things, and then just the sheer quantity of players they seem to have got. Well, Blizzard kept a lot of legacy code from the original Diablo 2, and they did that in an attempt to stay true to the original game. One legacy service is particularly struggling with modern player behavior, and it's one that handles critical pieces of game functionality. And that is game creation / joining, updating, reading, filtering game lists, verifying game server health, reading characters from the database to ensure a character can participate in whatever it is that you're filtering for. Now, what modern player behavior basically means is that with the internet, people are able to just get a lot more good info, and they can hyper-optimize their strategy. Okay? So, if you imagine, let's just say you've got a game like World of Warcraft, and suddenly every single World of Warcraft player decides to start grinding an old dungeon from the previous expansion, or go to one zone in particular. That wouldn't be expected behavior, and there would be issues. Now, in this case, it's basically stuff like examples. Ball runs for XP. Pindleskin, Ancient Sewers for Magic Find. The ways that in an action RPG, certain parts will be hyper-optimized and then grinded. That's the sort of thing that can cause more specific loads that clearly they were not really able to keep up with. Though we did foresee this with players making fresh characters on fresh servers, working hard to get their magic finding items, we vastly underestimated the scope we derived from beta testing. So that's the thing, of course, where in a beta, people are not going to be having that hyper-optimized mindset with their gameplay because it's the beta. Everyone knows it doesn't matter. So that basically seems to have caught them by surprise. Then Blizzard also said that they were basically saving too much to the global database, and they have changed that, which should reduce server load. It's the sort of thing, if you're always doing that, you kind of end up accidentally DDoSing yourself, basically. Right? Just flooding your own stuff, so there's often a more optimized way to do it. Now, on the topic of progression loss, this is one that really sucks for Blizzard. So essentially, the progress loss is because of how the regional database interacts with the global one, where a character was locked into the global database whenever a region is assigned, but during the server outages, characters got stuck in the regional with no way to transfer over to the global. So Blizzard could basically unlock everyone with unsaved changes in the global database, which of course would lose progress when the database was overwritten. Or they could take the whole game offline and then run a script to basically just sort all of this stuff out. Now, you would imagine that would be a pretty simple solve. However, you'd have to take those things offline. Doing so would very much disrupt the service, so Blizzard prioritized the first option, which is the game staying up, and they say they're deeply sorry for the lost progress. I suppose that's just what we have to deal with. In most cases, it does seem the lost progress is not particularly massive, though I imagine for some people that may not ring true. I think, yeah. They say this is better, but still not good enough in our eyes. An unfortunate situation indeed. As for what Blizzard are doing, well, rate limiting. So they are limiting the number of operations in the database around creating and joining games. If it's happening too quickly, they may throw up a server communications error, but that doesn't mean the servers are down. Okay? So basically the sort of situation where you may be more likely to have an odd experience as a user, but that will ensure the servers don't fall over, which ultimately is the greater good here. Then for login queues, well, that's something they're going to be implementing. Right? So large numbers of players attempting to log in at the same time was causing issues with diagnosing and addressing problems. Because of this, a login queue is in the works, basically like what you get in World of Warcraft. So there's going to be a login queue. That will basically just smooth things out. I mean, sure, queue sucks, but it's better than the whole login system falling over and nobody being able to log in. and this should be deployed on PC in the coming days, and then later on console. Then also, they are breaking out critical pieces of functionality into smaller services. So new microservices, as an example, a game list service that is only responsible for providing the game list to players. And that's the sort of thing, if you go up there, if the game list is tied into an overall service that handles a few other bits of critical functionality, well, if one thing goes down, it can then take everything else down. At least with something like this, it's a lot more clear-cut, so even if a problem does happen, it should be more easy to diagnose and solve. So there you go. So in closing, they say that they've got people working incredibly hard to manage incidents in real time, across Blizzard, and that's that's basically that. We can assure you that we will keep working until the game experience feels good to us, not only as developers, but as players and community members as well. And as for where we leave this, it's a terrible shame that any of this has happened. It seems like Vicarious Visions did a great job on the fundamentals of what the game actually is, but broader service just wasn't able to keep up, and that has failed everybody. That absolutely sucks. Hopefully this gets better, and, it could already be a massive financial win for Blizzard. That's one of the main things that I think we can really glean from this update document. Concurrency in the hundreds of thousands in a single region is absolutely massive.
Yeah.
You put that in the Steam charts, and it's going to be very, very high indeed.
Yeah, what was it? New World was lauded for having 700,000 on its explosive launch on Steam. So you think hundreds of thousands, you're looking at at least 200,000 if you take them at their word there, and that's in one region.
Yeah, probably more like 3. If they're saying hundreds.
Taking sort of I guess lowballing it just to not hyperinflate it. But you are probably looking at like 3, 4, 500,000 across all regions in that kind of case, which is completely insane. And it's not absolutely extremely massive, but it is pretty huge.
Surely it would make this, I don't know about Spyro, but certainly would that not make it their most successful remaster project?
I think it would make it, I think yes.
I have no idea what the Call of Duties have done.
I think yes,
but
and also probably one of Vicarious Vision's most successful projects, especially if now that they've actually had this communication, if it does continue to grow, then that's actually huge. And on this communication, I think this is basically best in class.
It's exactly what you want.
Yeah, I talking about how the subreddit was furious with the game and really pissed off at the Blizzard side of it, knowing Vicarious had made a good game, and now they're just like, yep, real shame we didn't have this earlier, but this is exactly fantastic. This answers every question we had, and we're all outstandingly happy with this.
Yeah,
and it's just like
Imagine if we got one of those posts for Covenants or some of those things in World of Warcraft, right?
Anything.
That's like the gold standard for actually honestly dealing with your community.
Yeah, no, I am genuinely flabbergasted that this came out of anything related to Blizzard, honestly. It's so unlike anything I would have expected, and it's great.
Yeah, so I guess more power to them for dealing with this. Yes, a bit slowly, but correctly in terms of communications. At the end of the day, we want this game to be better and be stable for everybody so they can actually enjoy it. Seems like that's going to happen. That said, there is a little bit for Diablo 4 as well, which, in spite of all the weirdness, I know it's probably a game I can hop in and get 30 or 40 hours of fun out of, so I'm decently looking forward to it. I want the grim dark, not grim dark, but I want the older vibe of Diablo to come back, rather than the brighter stuff of 3, so it's a game I'm interested in. Now, Diablo 4 has got a new game director, right? Of course, that role had been vacant since Luis Barrega left Blizzard in the wake of the Californian Department of Fair Housing and Employment lawsuit. So basically here, it has not been confirmed that he actively has been implicated in a harassment allegation, right? But still, if he was seen to, to break procedure, show preferential treatment to somebody who was implicated in that, then by Activision Blizzard's, public words, he would have to go, and he is gone, so perhaps that is what happened, but that is speculation. And now his departure was announced, along with Jonathan LeCraft and Jesse McCree, who, maybe they were implicated. Now, the new thing is that Joe Shelley is the Diablo 4 director. Now, Joe is a longtime Blizzard vet who has worked on multiple World of Warcraft expansions, was a senior game designer on Diablo 3. He actually has been part of the D4 team since 2017, providing general oversight on combat design, and he spearheaded development of the playable demo from BlizzCon 2019. And he said that he is honored to continue the vision of Diablo 4 as its game director and humbled to represent the team. So, good luck to him. Hopefully we get some good Diablo. At the end of the day, more competition in the market is good. I think a game like Path of Exile is awesome. It is also mega in-depth, super complex. That's one of the reasons why people love it so much. There's a bit of me that thinks that maybe a more Blizzard-y, sort of accessible, big, smashy fun thing, there's room for both of them in the market.
Yeah, because like traditionally I'd have suspected that Torchlight would have taken a lot of the kind of, a simple version of the RPG, but obviously they completely shit the bed with Torchlight 3.
Yep.
Which is really personally very annoying, but Diablo 4 has room to be kind of the, hey, this is actually dark, but not super in-depth or super, kind of... I guess the problem with Path of Exile would be then the fact that it's got this massive legacy. And especially with how they're developing things, a new player will be terrified going in there. So I guess from the Diablo 4 angle, they do have room to grab that whole market. They just need to prove they can do it. And hopefully Diablo 4 has a little, because of Joe Shelley working on D3 and Reaper of Souls, of course, which was, Diablo 3, but good this time. Hopefully Diablo 4 does learn that. Yeah, absolutely. So that's it for us. That's it for this story, for round 2 of us recording this story. We hope you found this interesting and that you get to play the game you want to play soon. Indeed. Right. Have a great day. We'll see you next time.